I've shared my story with them, and they'll say, hey, I remember when you said this, and how did you deal with it?
You have kids who are looking up to you at all times, watching to see your moves, watching to see how you respond in certain situations, taking your advice.
Saturday's the big one, and then Sunday during Melvindale days is the big one.
They may not necessarily want to dress like you, they may not necessarily want to talk like you, but there's something about you that they respect and want to emulate.
If I'm going to model for them, I have to show them everything that's good about being educated, because after all, that's the purpose of us being here.
Remember, 3 parts to your final exam. When they find out, that moment hits and they're like, oh, you graduated from here? Wait a second. It's kind of like, well, I can listen to you now. You're one of us. So that's huge. That's been a huge help. Telling them, hey, I sat in these seats too. I think it puts it in perspective. From a little girl, since kindergarten, all the way up, being around kids, being in the school environment, it always made sense. My mom was a single mom. My dad was kind of off doing his thing, and she raised myself and my brother, and we cleaned banks with her. She was a bank teller during the day, and then she cleaned the banks at night and parking lots on the weekends. I had great teachers, kindergarten through senior year in high school. Mrs. Bird, oh, I wish she was around still. I can't thank that woman enough. She was my kindergarten teacher. And she, you know, being from a family that we struggled to make ends meet at times, I came to school one day and I didn't have proper shoes. They were, you know, they had holes in them, tears at the seams, and she noticed. And, you know, who notices somebody's shoes? She noticed, and it wasn't long, and she came in the next day with shoes, and she pulled me aside, and hey, they were these goofy little red 80s boots. But I thought they were the best thing I'd ever seen, and she gave them to me, so they were prized possessions, and just an amazing woman. That one moment stands out. I thought, I want to be a teacher, and I want to give kids shoes.
I had to vent. I think I'm going to be happy.
I'm glad you did. Come on in. Sharing experiences and helping them, getting them the tools they need to continue, whether it's, you know, advice on a relationship, whether it's some advice with a family who's struggling, being able to help a student go through driver's training and get his driver's license is a pretty cool thing. You know, helping some girls who have, you know, pregnancy, teen pregnancy is something that I've really been able to counsel girls on. I had my son young, so them knowing that, I don't tell them flat out about it, but they do the math real quick and they go, oh, okay, you know, you were really young too. And they come back to me and they will talk, and you know, they need to know that education is important, and it's not just for you. It's not selfish at all to want an education. It's for that baby. It's for your family and your future and that baby's future. That's so huge. It's a shame that Melvindale does have a reputation, and I really don't know when it started or why. It was like that when I was in school. It's like that now, and people associate violence and things, and that's just not the case. Our kids are the most caring, the most loving. They hold doors for you when you come in. When I was a student, it's a school pride thing. We were the Cardinals, and we were very proud of that. The sporting events and the Friday night football games, when you were out yelling and screaming with your class, and float competitions at homecoming, it's very near and dear to your heart. And I think how it's crossed over now to me as an adult, it's an enormous pride. It's really an incredible sense of pride in this building. The kids are amazing. I would tease with them up until last year. I think that one of the chemistry books still had my name on it. So they asked me, what's your maiden name? And I tell them, and then they would look through their chemistry books and try and find it. Who's got our book? Who's got our book? It's very fun. But just builds that relationship with the kids. Memories are invoked by, you know, space and symbols and things, and not much has changed since I graduated with the physical building. So I still remember myself in the classrooms, and I can kind of take a deep breath and, okay, you know, they're teenagers. I did this too. I did this right here, and they'll get through this. I just have to coach them. What do I wish someone would have said to me when I was feeling this way?
I had her for a class called The Family and for Child Development, and right around that time she was getting married and she was having a baby. So she always had like stories to tell us, and you know, it was pretty cool because she brought outside experiences that she had into the class. A lot of teachers kind of act like they're perfect, and she would give examples about where she messed up. You know, it sounds funny because she was my teacher, but I looked at her like a friend. There would be times where we would be going through really rough times as students, peer pressure, or even things where people don't realize you have problems because you're so young. And she would, you know, have you stay after class, and she would talk to you a little bit. And that even made it where I wanted to come to her class, because it wasn't just a teacher, but it was somebody that I knew understood me, and she never really judged anybody, but she was very open. And I looked at her like a mom that I wanted to be. You see a successful woman that might not have had the perfect life growing up, but she made something out of it. And that's definitely, I could definitely relate to it.
It's really nice to provide that role model family for my kids. You know, being a child whose parents were divorced, I didn't see that often. And I remember playing volleyball and the kids, both parents were at the games. And I thought, well, that's kind of, I wish both my parents could be at the games. For those kids that don't have that traditional family unit, to see that and to know that it's possible in a world where you hear divorce rates are over 50%, that's not always how it is. That's not it. And like I tell my girls all the time, don't ever settle for less. Ever, ever, ever. Don't ever settle. And I remember when my husband sent me flowers for my birthday the first year we were just dating. And I had mentioned months and months before that purple was my favorite color, and the flowers came in and they were purple. And I told my girls, I said, don't ever settle for a man who can't remember your favorite color. I said, that's the guy you want. And a couple of years ago, I had one of my students come back, and you know, she was still with a guy in high school, and she says, you know, I keep thinking about what you said about, does he remember my favorite color? I thought it was just a random thing that I said at the moment, and she had stuck onto that, and that's what she was gauging her relationship on. And I thought, you know, good for you. Good for you. Don't settle for anything less than Mr. Wonderful. I want them to have that Cardinal pride, and I want them to hold their heads high, and I want them to sing that fight song at the top of their lungs and sound like fools. I want them to come back to Friday night football games and hear that victory bell after a touchdown and get goosebumps. I want them to feel that, to be proud to say, I graduated from Melvindale, and not hesitate, not think, are these people going to judge me? Not stop for 1 second. I want them to be proud of it. They should be. They absolutely should be.
Great Teachers is brought to you by the United Way for Southeastern Michigan, with support from the Ford Foundation. More information is available at www.liveunitedsem.org.